I'm Hilary Topper, and you are listening to Hilary Topper on Air. Today, I have the great pleasure of having Scott Tucker, who's the founder of Vimazi, the innovative running shoe company that's changing the game for athletes everywhere. Personally, I love training and racing in Vimazi shoes, and I'm excited to hear from Scott about his vision, his products, and the story behind his brand. Scott, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. Happy to be
So,
here.
so, can you share the story of how Vimazi came to be? What inspired you to start the company?
Yeah, it started with back in 2017 with an idea that I had actually just on one of those early morning runs in the middle of winter through the drizzle in the dark and just thinking about how the body works and interactions with shoes. Okay,
Yeah.
time out for a second here. I've been in the footwear industry for like 30 years. So um, these weren't just random thoughts coming out of my head. I mean, they were very much of this is what I live and breathe all the time. But I just was thinking about just that the shoes are so that we run in, they're just so basic in the sense that they just have this, foam underneath us, and that uh, we could probably do a better job if we thought a little bit more deeply about just how the foam is interacting with the body and really get beyond thinking of the body as this rigid thing that bounces on the ground, like a ball. Like we have all of these joints and we move with different cadences and different speeds and all of these in our the joints are powered by muscles with tendons and so forth. So I thought there's got to be more to this than what we've been thinking about. And so I just did a kind of a deep mental dive into what that means. And I hit upon a fairly simple idea, but radical, I guess, as far as shoes go. In sense of instead of making the shoe firm and stable in the heel and soft and mushy, cushy, I should say, in the forefoot, that really we needed to do quite the opposite. Um, because then we can actually absorb shock better and stabilize the foot and reduce the stresses on the body in the horizontal as well as vertical.
Mm. So, when you started Vimazi, how has it evolved over time?
So I started with that kind of simple idea, and um, I had some others that I was, thinking this through with. We thought that the people who would be most attracted to this idea would be the fast runners, the people who are really, training hard to improve their times and so forth. And so we thought about how we would package the shoes and communicate it in terms that they would understand. And that first idea was like, oh, well, they most runners who are training all the time are fixated on their pace and training to a pace and you race at a certain goal pace and so forth, that we could present the line of shoes according to pace zones and that would resonate with them. And what we found after doing that is that that wasn't actually the market that was most attracted to the product, and that wasn't a message that was resonating. And so we have realized that what we had is actually much more valuable to people who want to prevent getting injured in the first place, or have to recover from their aches and pains and injuries, so that they can get back to doing what they want to do. And so that's been sort of like the major change, and we're in the midst of going out to market again with this new kind of
Mm.
approach, that it's not about reducing your 10K time. This is about being able to get to the
Get
starting line in
back.
the best shape possible.
That's me. I just had knee surgery, so that's it's going to be a challenge now. So tell us what makes Vimazi shoes unique for runners and athletes, and what sets them apart from other brands, in addition to getting them back to the start line?
But the unique part is just the midsole design. you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and it's in its simplest terms, like I said, we have it's firmer in the forefoot than it is in the heel area. But you really need to be more precise about that. You can't go and engineer a shoe and say firmer or softer. You need to specify exactly what this is. And so there's a lot of physics
yeah.
engineering that goes into that. And that's the hard work that we did to come up with it, and so that we could test and verify that what we are producing is what is going to benefit the users.
So let me ask you, so for somebody who is a heel striker,
Mhm.
this shoe is perfect, right? But what about that person that bounces off the front of their foot? I mean, a lot of people are trying to change their strides, right? Will it still work for those people as well?
Yeah, I mean the challenge that we also have is this kind of misconception about what's happening when you're running, and a focus this there has been a focus on this idea that running is like a bouncing ball, and you like land and you just kind of bounce off of it, um, which isn't what happens at all. And so with that said, when you're running, yes, the the motion in general is from the back to the forward to the front, right? And even if you land with a forefoot strike, like just imagine sprinting, right? um your the motion is still from wherever your foot is on the ground, right? From the back part towards the toe. It always goes in that direction. Okay, whether or not you touch your heel to the ground at all, and most people who have a forefoot strike do touch their heel, it just comes down after the forefoot hits. And so then they do have this general direction of, that's where the force goes, from the back towards the front. Um, so so that's an important concept just to keep in your mind. And then the second thing is that almost all of the time when you're, during the stride, the forefoot is in contact with the ground. So if you're a heel striker, like, the time difference between your heel hits and then the forefoot comes down is super short. And if you're a forefoot striker, there is no time difference because you're always on the forefoot, right?
Yeah.
The forefoot, that then that's where all of the uh, pronation is occurring. And in this sense, we mean that there is a change of the center of force from more lateral on the outside of the foot towards medial, towards the inside of the foot. That has to happen so that we stay in balance when we're running. Everybody does this. And if you have a soft forefoot, midsole, if the midsole is soft, you're going to compress the inside more, just because that's how your foot moves. Everybody's foot moves that. And it doesn't matter if you heel strike or forefoot strike. So the Vimazi design says, look, we need to minimize how much um, acceleration you're having as you're going from
Hmm.
outside to inside. There's going to be some because that's what happens in your when you work. So even when you're barefoot, that happens, right? And there's no midsole at all. But if you put a soft midsole in there, you actually start to increase that acceleration, and that translates into strain on your body and on your joints, and that leads to injuries. And um, so the same design has to work no matter what kind of strike pattern you exhibit.
Interesting. So talk to me a little bit about some of these other sneakers on the market, like rockers, where they kind of like they're almost like rocker type of thing, or the carbon plates, which is the
Mhm.
popular ones right now, which are super expensive and untouchable. Um, do they compare to the Vimazi, or are the Vimazi in really a class by itself?
Well, so a rocker is employed in the Vimazi shoes as well, and that has to do with the shape um, contouring of the midsole, and it's it can be quite effective at reducing the accelerations, and this is primary kind of a vertical thing, and um, you can show it mathematically that that's going to reduce the strain on like Achilles and, and plantar fascia and so forth. And so those kinds of designs, without doing anything with the foam densities or something like that, right?
Yeah.
That can deliver, a good benefit to a walker and a runner. So it's really more about the heel rocker
Hmm.
than the toe rocker. And the reason is that we also have this joint, in the ball of the foot. And so that does most of the work. The joint does, as opposed to the shoe. So that's the rocker thing. The carbon plates came from this idea that's the same as the bouncing ball idea, that you come down, you flex this plate, and that it's going to spring back and return some energy to you. And the physics of that are just wrong. It doesn't actually transfer energy to the body to make you work. And it's a bit more complicated to get into than in this podcast, but um, it just doesn't do anything that is related to the energies required for you to run. And it doesn't change how you run or anything like that. What it does do is add a lot of cost to the shoe. Um, and there's a ton of hype, and marketing money that's gone in behind it. So people just kind of want to believe it anyways. Um, but there's actually nothing to it.
So let's shift gears a little bit. Starting a shoe company is no small feat. What challenges have you faced along the way, and how have you tackled them?
Well, we've first faced COVID, um, which slowed everything down. And of course, it didn't help that we've been doing our development and the production in China. So we had not just all of the global supply chain kind of slow down stuff, but then we um, also had that coupled with increased tariffs and so forth. So these are like these global economic business kinds of things that just uh, hit us, and we didn't see that coming. And so that, is hard for a startup. Any
Sure.
startup, faces that same kind of problem. So those things, and what came along with that was a lot of increases in other costs. Transportation costs went, through the roof and have stayed high. And so these are all, kind of basic business challenges that when you're, starting out and you don't have a lot of volume of sales, then those things can hit really hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're persevering, trying to make it work otherwise. I have to say that we also had this idea back in 2018 that the internet sales were going to just take over everything. I mean, that just seemed like what was happening. And I mean, even big brands like Nike were projecting that, 50% of all of their sales were going to be, direct to consumer, through the Nike website and so forth. Uh, and that didn't happen. Um, and uh, that's on, didn't even happen for Nike. And the costs and the logistical costs and so forth were considerably higher than were forecasted. But we also confronted the very real phenomena that if you're an unknown brand and people don't know how it fits, well, there's a huge hesitation to doing it. And then when they do buy online, there's a higher percentage of getting the wrong size and wrong fit for them.
Hmm.
And so then the returns go up. So the whole direct to consumer aspect to how we had conceived of the business didn't work out the way we wanted. And so we're, having to go back to a more conventional way of distributing where people can go in and actually try them on before they have to buy them.
Hmm.
And so there's some retooling going on.
Hmm. Okay. And are so before you were alluding to the fact that more and more runners and endurance athletes are getting injured. I mean, we get injured all the time, right? So is this shift something that that's why you're changing the shift of your shoes to help people to get back on the start line? Could you talk a little bit more about that? How you're
Well, I don't think that necessarily people are getting injured at a higher rate than before. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they are. I just don't have any stats on that. But but we do know that it's a real thing. And so I think that the shift is that for us was to go from um, first focusing on people who want to um, just have a better training outcome and have products that it makes sense that they're working with their body and that in ways that the body actually works, to saying specifically there are people who are already hurting and they're going to be the ones who are most attracted to what we're offering because they have the highest need right now. And that over time, as people get to know about Vimazi, they will see that it also is a better shoe to run in before you get injured so that you can put it off longer because it's reducing the stresses on your body.
Yeah, definitely. So looking ahead, what's on the horizon for Vimazi? Do you have any new products coming out?
Yeah, so we have gotten sort of a version 2.0, if you will, or maybe it's a 1.2. I don't know how you want to talk about it, but where we've the soles of the shoes are the same as been and how they're engineered and so forth. We haven't had to change that, but we found that there were some aspects to the uppers that were uh, fit issues, materials, things that were needing improvement. And so we've done that. And also, the reality is for everybody in the world is that the cosmetics of a shoe um, matter a lot. And
Absolutely.
and even if somebody said, I really liked that shoe, you have to keep up with the times. And so you always have to, update your colors and, the other cosmetic details. And so we've done that as well. The third thing is that we, instead of uh, bringing out a whole set of new models, like 9 new models, and with a lot of differentiations in how the soles are made. We have realized that we can better address that market of people who, like I said, are already injured and like they have, needs. They want to get back to good running with just 2 models that are, you know, roughly speaking, one is for, going walking and more slow running, and the other is for, higher intensity running.
Uh-huh.
And I could get into maybe it's a different podcast into like why you need to engineer the shoe differently when you're running faster, but just you can just imagine that you need to make things firmer in the forefoot as you go faster, as you have a higher cadence. And so we have, you know, done that in the shoes, but we can do it really well with just these 2 models, the what is going to be the new Z60 and new Z50.
Oh, okay, great. I hope you keep the same look because I love the way it looks. It's just so unique and different. And that's just every time I wear them, people like ask me, "Where did you get them?" So, yeah. Now, talking about where to get them, um, are you still selling them online? And should people size up? Should they size down? What would you recommend?
They are still available online, and the new versions will be available online at the early spring of 2025. Um, and the current models are still available right now. And the experience has been that the models fit true to size, with the exception of 2 of them, the what is the current Z40 and Z50, which we recommend going up half a size. And it's, the last is the same for all of the shoes. The insoles are the same, but it has to do with the there's a little bit of stretch in every fabric, and just how the shoe comes together. And it those 2 models, that upper material tended to, after production, kind of pull back a little bit and made the overall fit feel like it's a little bit smaller. So that's why we recommend it, going
Yeah.
up the size on those. And then we will continue to find new outlets where you can buy them, and then we will, put those onto the website. In addition to, working with podiatrists and physical therapists and, chiropractors and some people where people providers that are treating injured runners, and they're then going to be able to introduce them to Vimazi and direct them to shops that are carrying and stocking them, where they can go and try them on and pick them up.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Scott. This was so informative, and I appreciate you taking the time out. I want to thank you, our listeners, for tuning into Hilary Topper on Air. If you haven't tried Vimazi shoes yet, I highly recommend them. You are definitely in for a treat. I love mine, and you can get 25% off of Vimazi shoes by using the code Run Without Pain 2024. So until next time, thank you again.
Thank you.